Time now for your forewarned weather with Cedric Haynes.
Welcome back to midday.
Hey, I'll tell you what, it's about lunchtime.
Yes, I'm hungry.
Yeah.
It is about lunchtime.
Yeah.
What you got? Kale and
The
quinoa.
kale salad.
You know me too well.
Maybe just a side of
He
assorted
does
nuts.
not like
Yes,
vegetables.
exactly.
Matt.
Still
You
on
know
his health
that.
kick.
That's true. Yeah, no, I don't eat like that healthy. More of a chicken and rice. That's about as good as I'm going to do here. But yeah, if you want to eat outside today, it'll be at least a few degrees cooler than yesterday. So there's that. Of course, we're dealing with the fire threat. That's going to be the big concern. And then, of course, even some monsoon moisture possibilities later today. So got a little bit of stuff.
That's what you
going
said
on.
you wanted, Matt. You said you wanted to switch up in
ready.
the weather.
So,
you wanted some
hey,
storms.
That's true.
Cedric is granting it.
Yeah. Let's talk about those fires and everything as well. As you can see here, the Willard Peak fire, of course, we know yesterday was a big deal. And a lot of evacuations, a lot of acres burned, over 200 acres burned at least. And I'm sure we had that fire ongoing overnight this morning and still some flames out there. So situation that we definitely got to watch. The good news is we look at some of the winds out there. Right now they're out of the west, which is not good news, but they're about 12 miles per hour. So those are the wind gusts. So that's not too bad right now. Lots of dry air that's in place, though. Of course, we know that wind out of the west yesterday was blowing a lot of that smoke and haze across most of the northern half of the state. Here's a view from Ensign Peak yesterday afternoon, and you can just see that thick cloud of yuckiness right over portions of the valley areas. So a lot of that smoke and haze getting trapped over the valleys yesterday, creating some issues with air quality and also creating some issues with visibility in general. And that could be a situation that we kind of have to deal with a little bit again today as well. Here's why. We still have that high pressure, even though it's sliding a little further to the east, still giving us that south and west flow across the area. And so thankfully this morning, the winds have been very light out of the south and west. But we're starting to see that picking up right now, particularly, especially for areas over southwest Utah, from the West Desert back down towards, let's say, the St. George area. But still, we're going to be starting to notice more of that wind picking up, I think, across the northern half of the state as we go throughout the next couple of hours. So because of that, because of the very low humidity levels and the dry vegetation we have in place, we've got an elevated fire threat pretty much all across the Beehive State for today. But areas north of I-70, it's an even higher threat. It's a critical threat for us here. And the reason for that is because we are going to be adding in that potential of some dry thunderstorms and some gusty outflow winds as a front moves in from the north. We could see some of those showers and storms popping up. They may not produce a ton of rain, but they may produce some lightning and those winds that when those storms collapse and rush out can help spread any flames that we already have going, like over in North Ogden. So we're going to be keeping a close eye on that. Because of that reason, we've got fire weather warnings pretty much for most of the viewing area today. Southwest Wyoming, most of northern Utah, as you get into the Wasatch back to Uintas, down towards Castle Country, down towards southern portions of the state as well. So only people left out of this right now is the West Desert back towards southwest Utah. But even there, I think the threat is pretty critical when it comes to the fire concerns out there. We could use some moisture. It's been almost 40 days in Salt Lake City since we've seen measurable rainfall. 22 days in Provo, but almost 40 days in Tooele as well. We've had almost 40 days in Logan, but it's been about 22 to 24 days there from Cedar City to St. George. Here's the good news with that. With this high pressure sliding ever so slightly off towards the east, it gives us that potential to tap into some of that monsoon moisture, and that's what we're going to be tracking as we go throughout this afternoon. So as that front moves in, we'll see the chance of isolated storms across the state, but we could see a little enhancement this evening across the northern half of the state into southwest Wyoming, and that will mainly be in the form, again, as I mentioned, of some gusty outflow winds and the chance of some lightning, but can't rule out some downpours as well with that activity. Futurecast showing us this afternoon some of these pop-ups here primarily in the higher terrain, and then this evening that's when we can see some of these isolated storms ahead of that frontal boundary across the valley locations. And then tomorrow we start off with rain across the south and east, and that moisture will work its way north during the afternoon and evening hours along with moving westward, and it'll move kind of slowly across south central Utah, which means got to watch out for some potential of flash flooding. And even into Saturday afternoon, we're going to keep that chance of pop-up showers and storms developing. So as I mentioned, we'll be watching tomorrow for the potential of some isolated flash flooding for our southern recreating areas. But for the most part, I think the main threat will be lightning and gusty winds from these storms as they make their way through. St. George, 104 for your high today, 100 Friday. We may go below 100 for the weekend before we go right back into the triple digits heading into next week. Meanwhile, the Wasatch Front, we've got those isolated storms over the next several days. Highs go from the mid to upper 90s into the low 90s as we move towards the weekend.